Eliminative materialism is a provocative and radical theory in the philosophy of mind that challenges our traditional, common-sense understanding of psychological phenomena. This theory posits that the concepts and categories we use to describe mental states, such as beliefs, desires, and emotions, are fundamentally flawed and will eventually be replaced by a more sophisticated understanding rooted in neuroscience. Before we dive in, if you find this content valuable, please hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and leave a comment below. It truly helps us grow. Now, let's get started. Developed in the latter half of the 20th century, eliminative materialism has sparked intense debates among philosophers, cognitive scientists, and neuroscientists. The central claim of eliminative materialism is that our everyday mentalistic vocabulary, with its reliance on folk psychology, is inadequate for explaining the complexities of the mind. This review will delve into the key arguments and implications of this theory, exploring both its strengths and criticisms. 1. Historical roots. Eliminative materialism emerged as a response to the failures of traditional philosophy of mind, which struggled to provide a satisfying account of mental states. This movement gained prominence in the latter half of the 20th century when philosophers like Paul and Patricia Chechland, along with others such as Wilfrid Sellars and Daniel Dennett, sought to bridge the gap between philosophy and neuroscience by suggesting that our mental concepts are in need of revision. The roots of eliminative materialism can be traced back to Sellars' notion of the myth of the given, which challenged the idea that our mental states directly reflect an external reality. Chechland and Dennett further developed this line of thinking, arguing that our intuitive beliefs about the mind are akin to outdated scientific theories that should be replaced by a more accurate understanding rooted in neuroscience. This historical context highlights the intellectual lineage that led to the formation of eliminative materialism as a radical challenge to traditional notions of the mind. 2. The problem with folk psychology. Eliminative materialism confronts the foundational issue of folk psychology, which serves as our everyday understanding of the mind and relies on concepts like belief, desire, and intention. Proponents of this theory argue that folk psychological concepts are overly simplistic and lack the precision needed to comprehend the brain's intricate workings. Folk psychology, while intuitive and familiar, struggles to account for the complexities of mental states. Proponents of eliminative materialism point out that it often fails to explain phenomena observed in modern cognitive science and neuroscience. For example, it cannot provide a satisfactory account of neural mechanisms underlying conditions like schizophrenia or the subtle cognitive processes involved in decision-making. This criticism raises questions about the limitations of our intuitive psychological vocabulary. Are concepts like belief and desire merely rough approximations that mask the true nature of mental processes? Eliminative materialism challenges us to consider whether our common-sense understanding of the mind is, in fact, an impediment to deeper insights into the workings of the brain, advocating for a more scientifically grounded approach to the study of cognition. 3. Neuroscientific advancements. Eliminative materialists emphasize the significant strides made in the field of neuroscience over recent decades. They argue that as our understanding of the brain's functioning becomes increasingly sophisticated, it will ultimately render folk psychological concepts obsolete. This perspective is often associated with the concept of a mature neuroscience that will gradually supplant our current mental vocabulary. The reasoning behind this claim lies in the belief that the brain operates on a level of complexity far beyond the grasp of folk psychology. Neuroscientific research has unveiled intricate neural networks, neurotransmitter systems, and neuroplasticity mechanisms that underpin mental processes. As we continue to uncover the biological underpinnings of thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, proponents of eliminative materialism contend that our reliance on vague and imprecise folk psychological terms like belief and desire will give way to a more accurate and comprehensive scientific lexicon. However, critics argue that while neuroscience has undoubtedly illuminated many aspects of the mind, it may never fully replace folk psychology, as the latter serves important functions in everyday communication and understanding. The tension between these perspectives underscores the ongoing debate in the philosophy of mind. 4. The Chechland's perspective. Among the influential advocates of eliminative materialism are Paul and Patricia Chechland, whose perspectives have played a pivotal role in shaping this philosophical stance. The Chechlands assert that traditional mental concepts such as belief and desire are vestiges of outdated theories of the mind, and they propose discarding these notions in favor of a neuroscientific language rooted in empirical research and biological understanding. Paul Chechland, in particular, has argued that our folk psychological vocabulary lacks the precision and explanatory power required to delve into the complexities of mental phenomena. He contends that the mind is an extension of the brain, and therefore, the most fruitful approach to understanding mental states lies in the scientific study of neural processes. This stance aligns with the broader eliminative materialist view that, over time, our common-sense understanding of the mind will be replaced by a more advanced and accurate neuroscientific framework. The Chechland's perspective has been both influential and controversial, sparking ongoing debates regarding the extent to which neuroscience can truly supplant traditional mental concepts and whether this shift is not just a matter of semantic change, but a transformation in our understanding of the human mind itself. Critics argue that while neuroscience provides valuable insights, it may not entirely negate the utility of folk psychology in everyday life and communication. The Chechland's advocacy for a neuroscientific paradigm reflects the core tenets of eliminative materialism, contributing significantly to the broader discourse on the philosophy of mind. Criticisms and challenges. 1. Eliminative materialism versus common sense. Critics argue that while folk psychology may be imprecise, it remains an indispensable part of human interaction. They contend that eliminating everyday mental concepts would make it nearly impossible to communicate about thoughts, intentions, and emotions effectively. 2. The overreach critique. Some philosophers suggest that eliminative materialism overreaches in its dismissal of all mental concepts. They advocate for a more moderate position, where both folk psychology and neuroscience can coexist, each serving different purposes. 3. Scientific reductionism. Critics question whether neuroscience can provide a complete and exhaustive explanation of mental states. They argue that the mind is more than just the sum of its physical parts and that reductionist approaches risk oversimplifying the complexities of consciousness. 4. The problem of qualia. Eliminative materialism struggles to account for subjective experiences, often referred to as qualia. Critics argue that it fails to explain why certain neural processes are associated with specific subjective experiences, such as the taste of chocolate or the feeling of pain. Eliminative materialism is undeniably a radical theory that challenges our conventional understanding of the mind. It raises thought-provoking questions about the relationship between language, neuroscience, and our mental experiences. While its critics argue for the preservation of folk psychology and the limitations of a purely reductionist approach, proponents believe that a mature neuroscience will ultimately provide a more accurate and comprehensive account of the mind. As this review has shown, the debate surrounding eliminative materialism remains lively and complex, with no definitive resolution in sight. The theory serves as a testament to the enduring mystery of the human mind and the ongoing quest to unravel its intricacies. Whether eliminative materialism ultimately prevails or faces further refinement, it undoubtedly stands as a landmark in the philosophy of mind, pushing the boundaries of our understanding and challenging us to rethink the very nature of thought and consciousness.